We're back after a little hiatus. Well, it's a temporary backness. Chris has been actually, to the good reasons, he's been very busy, and so we had to postpone a few things. But welcome back, Chris! Yay!
Man,
you
it
didn't
is
cancel
good
me.
to be here.
Yeah.
It is good to be here.
I heard after you became a super secret spy and turned on me, and getting all this evidence for the court against me and stuff like that. What's going to come back?
Yeah, the problem is I wasn't very good at the super secret spy thing, and there's another super secret spy in the organization. So me and Chesh were talking yesterday, and we're pretty sure that there's that Uni's got a bigger spy network than the CIA and MI5 put together. But
I'm the spy in the network. That's it.
Goes without saying.
Hashtag what a twist.
Yeah,
so I know you are limited in time tonight because again you have been busy. So we're going to try to keep this to an hour.
Stop, man.
There's a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. So we are going to talk about the presidential debate, which I listened to this morning. And I, as you notice, I put the word presidential in quotes, obviously for a reason. But I told Chris the first question I'm going to ask him was something, and I'm going to totally change that up and ask him something completely different, just throw him off. I'm not going to do that. I'm never going to say that.
Wouldn't be the first time,
right? Yeah, you're a politician. You should be used to that, right?
Well, no. I'm see. That's the thing. Maybe I'm not a politician because politicians actually win. I haven't won.
Yeah, you're one in training.
I'm a failed attempted politician. I don't know.
Failed politician. So I want to know, and I'll give you my opinion too, of course. And okay, I want to ask this very clearly because I don't think there was a winner or loser, but whatever. Mm-hmm. Who do you think won the debate, or if you don't want to call it a win or a loss, who do you think did better overall?
Trump.
Wow,
Trump won.
I don't know you. We seriously cannot be friends.
But not for the reasons that everyone thinks.
Oh, okay. There's got to be reasons here. Okay, this is good.
It's not because of the substance of the argument. It's not because of anything like that. It's because what he did was he lured Joe Biden into a trap and made him get into a scrap. I mean, the commentary beforehand, they were saying it's going to be like a WWE wrestler going up against a polished boxer. What happened was you had the polished boxer in Biden got dragged down into the mud, and he took the bait and he fought. But that's Trump's specialty. Anyone who was undecided, and when I say undecided, I'm not just talking about they haven't decided if they're voting for Trump or Biden. I'm talking about if they haven't decided if they're voting. Anyone who hadn't decided if they were voting, they're not voting. Then Biden won zero support there, and anyone who wasn't too sure probably looked at that and went, well, Biden's just the same as Trump. What's the point? Better the devil we know.
All right. Now, see, I find the way you measure what constitutes a win completely different from the way I did analysis. Okay, you're looking at it from a political point of view, which it's fair enough.
And look, I'm analysing this from a purely. So this isn't me commenting on the substance of the arguments, anything like that, because I don't think there was much substance in either arguments. I thought it was. I watched it twice. Okay, so the first time I watched it, I turned it off and just went, "Poor America, America's screwed."
Yeah, that's a given. We all recognize
that was terrible.
Yeah.
Neither of them looked presidential. And it was horrible. When I watched it around the second time around, I picked up a lot of things but I mean, who watches presidential debates twice realistically? So it's really I just picked up things just because I just wanted to make sure I had information coming in here. Biden had every opportunity. If Biden had have not taken the bait, been very straightforward, appeared very presidential, hadn't done the little snide jabs exactly like Trump was doing, but just on a quieter basis, he could have won and he could have taken a clear lead and basically knocked Trump out. He didn't do that, and that's why I think Trump was the winner. Not necessarily that he won the debate, but I think he won the night because Biden didn't get to land that knockout blow.
All right, so this is going to be
that he so easily could have.
This is my position on that. That is not a win. That's maybe at best a missed opportunity. I do understand Trump's. He wants to get down in the sandbox. He wants Biden to be a pugilist like him. He wants him to be just as nasty and mean-spirited, and he wants to play by basically playground rules. I get that, right? And he did goad him. There's no question about it. You have to admit, Trump wouldn't shut the hell up. He interrupted more than anybody I've ever seen in my life, right?
Oh, look, yeah, but that was his tactic.
That's his tactic. That
was his tactic.
I agree.
And then Biden started doing the same.
But let me point out this. Do I think that it influenced anybody? No. Do I think Biden gained anything? No. Do I think there's any loss? Do I think that 80% of the voters are going to do anything different? No. But the reason why I give the win to Biden is because I'm going by the actual questions that were answered. The only single question that I give a point to Trump was the very first one, which we'll get into. Every other thing, if I recall, I give to Biden. And if we're going to evaluate a debate fairly about who did better, I'm going to go by those standards about how did they answer the questions? Did they tell the American public something besides nonsensical rhetoric and things that have been disproving? And by the way, I'm telling you right now, you know this, Trump got literally pretty much everything wrong, right? I mean, so I'm going to give a win to Biden.
No, I wouldn't say that. I think he got a lot wrong. I think Biden didn't do that great. Look, if we were going off the actual, if it was a proper scored debate, okay, maybe that's a different story.
Well, the presidential debate is supposed to be pretty formal, right? Do you think?
Yeah, but at the end of the day, what are they doing? They're both trying to convince people to vote for them. That's the ultimate goal. It's nothing to do with facts. I think it probably wasn't helped by the moderator. I don't think, and I think both sides are saying that he didn't do a good job. And I will get into that as well. But look, I think ultimately it was Biden's to lose, and I think Biden lost it.
But
so maybe I'll rephrase it. Trump, maybe Trump didn't win, but maybe Biden lost.
Usually, if you have a loser, you have a winner. But I mean, I think you're arguing more that Biden had a golden opportunity.
This wasn't a usual debate. Let's be. There's been nothing like that. I mean,
and we'll get into the moderation. Boy, Chris just. We'll get into that. But Stonebutt says for $5, Chris had a lot of dumb takes already. Wow, he's just going after you. Chris had a lot of dumb takes already. Trump came off as a lunatic and went QAnon. He appeared to no one outside his abs properly. He appeared to no one outside his ABS probably scared a few off. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Here's the thing, and I'll be very clear here. I'm not taking Trump's side. I'm making a comment.
And you're looking from a political point of view. Who do you think moved anybody more? You're saying Trump?
It's something I'm going to get into, and let's talk about political tribalism for a second. Mm-hmm. Look, there's people who made up their mind who'd won the debate before the debate.
I didn't. No, but I wasn't one of those.
No. I'm not saying you.
Sure. I did. I went in objectively.
Okay. But there's people who it doesn't matter what I say. If I try and make an objective point, which I'm trying to do, I'm trying to be as objective as possible. And I cop it from both sides because, I'll point out stuff that Trump does that I think is terrible. I've got notes on things here that I think that Biden did very well, that I'm going to talk about. And guess what? When I say Biden does something well, all the Trump people jump on me and say, Chris is an idiot. When I go the other way, I get that. And you know what? Look, it's at the end of the day, I'm looking at this from a critical point of view. I don't have any skin in the game as far as I'm concerned. I'll be honest, as much as this might upset people, I couldn't give a shit who wins. It makes absolutely zero difference in my life unless whoever wins drags Australia into another war. So I'm trying to do a from the outside looking in. Because as important as Americans think the election is to the rest of the world, it's really not. It's an internal thing. So look, I'll try and give it as an objective an opinion, and yes, I do lean conservative. I'm not going to kid myself there. I do lean conservative. I do have biases, but conservative America is different to conservative everywhere else in the world. So
that's true.
It's if it's I'm not going to sit here and go, "Oh, Orange Man bad," and if you want that, there's a million other shows that are just going to sit there and just all group think about Orange Man bad. If I'm happy to have conversations, I'm happy if people want to throw a point out there, like an actual point, I'm happy to respond to it. And if I'm wrong, I'm happy to say, you know what, I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, I'm wrong. Cool. Throw them at me. Like, there's no problems. If there's something I'm saying that's wrong, or you disagree, or you've got something that's going to knock my argument on the head, do it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Well, let me put those out there. Before I watched the debate, somebody actually messaged me and they said, "Man, that was a real shit show." And I was like, "Well, who did better?" He's like, "Oh, Trump just annihilated kind of Biden thing." I go, "Oh, that's cool. Okay, I got to watch this, man. Maybe that's the case." Did not find that to be the case because again, it was all bullying, schoolyard tactics. Trump never answered any question directly. He evaded multiple questions. We'll get into those. And just had he had non-answers to everything. And that's, to me, is a loss. But let's get into that a little bit because I just want to get the first question, then you can take it anywhere you want. So the first question was asked, which I think was a great question. And this is the only one I kind of give to Trump, but I'm willing to be swayed on it with argumentation. He was asked, should he be able to appoint the next SCOTUS, right, for the Supreme Court? And he answered it very, very well. He said, "Look, I and the Senate or whatever, we were voted by the people. We have that right to elect who we want to the Supreme Court, and until basically he's voted out, I think he's right on that. Do I think that he should use that? No. Do I think Biden's thing saying, well, in the middle of election, that doesn't matter legally. It's unfortunate, and I think they should wait until after the election. I really honestly do. And I think that it will be, because I think they're going to obviously push this as far back as they can. But
it'll get pushed through.
Yeah,
it's going to get through. Whether people like it or not, it's getting pushed through.
It may. It very well might be right. And do I think they're wrong for doing that? Ethically, do they have a right to? Yes, they absolutely do. And don't kid yourself. Both parties would do this. Both parties would do this. They would push through their candidate if they could get it in. And is Trump
if Hillary had won 3 years ago, it would be 6-3 in favor of the Democrats. That's what happens. It's when you elect the Senate and a president in the US. That's what you're getting. You are getting whoever. If there's a vacancy now, 3 vacancies. I mean, that's quite a lot to come up. But I mean, look, that system, the system there is broken. I mean, appointing people for life is ridiculous.
Well, no, I don't have a problem with appointing people for life. The reason they do that, they don't want a Supreme Court justice to worry about being reelected. They don't have to worry about their being judicially influenced, and I get the reasons for that. However, there's also some downsides to that. But as it stands now, we do allow that as a presidential privilege. And he is the president, but people hate that.
Look, what he said, and I think this is where he actually won the point for this, and I think most people on either side agree. And I think there was a missed opportunity from Biden. I think Biden could have, and should have used what happened 4 years ago and really pushed on that. And,
when the Republicans were
really
doing
called
it,
out, called out.
And they did.
Look, I get the argument, and I get the argument as well. The Republicans held the Senate. So, of course, and look, whoever was in power, it was going to happen.
Yes.
Trump made a good point there when he said, I'm not elected for 3 years, I'm elected for 4 years.
And he was right about that. And I think that was his only good point the entire night, if I want my honest opinion.
I think that was his best. That was his best moment the entire night.
But it all went downhill after that. Because you remember, I just told you.
Ugly after
I just told you. A friend of mine told me, Trump kicked his ass, right? So I was listening to that. And I was like, man, this is starting off pretty good. Trump said exactly what he probably should have said. This is actually being interesting. Oh no, it just landslid after that. So you agree though that first point probably went to Trump.
Look, I think Biden missed an opportunity. I really think Biden missed an opportunity because I think there is an argument against it.
Sure.
His argument wasn't good, whether that argument's right or wrong, there's an argument against it, and I think Biden could have come across as very presidential with the right answer and with the right argument.
Yes.
But he didn't.
That argument he had was not a good argument. He basically said, well, we're in the middle of election. What does that matter? I mean, I'm sorry. I agree with you. You missed the opportunity on that one. All right. So what do you want? So of all the other questions or other topics, where do you want to go next?
But I'm happy to go wherever you or anyone else wants to go.
Go.
Look, let's tackle the elephant, the white supremacist narrative that's going out there. Let's talk about that.
You want my opinion first, or?
I'd love your opinion.
All right. So he was asked very clearly and succinctly to denounce white supremacy. And he was asked by Chris Wallace, would you denounce him? And he said, sure. And they said, okay, sir, then will you? And he never did. As a matter of fact, he threw out that little phrase, and I'm not going to say that this was some kind of coded message, okay? I know they're running with this, be prepared, or was it stand back, stand by. However, to a white supremacist, they will take it like that. They will. Again, they're like, basically think like Unirock. They'll take anything they can and twist it all out.
Who are the white supremacists, though? Who are we talking about?
The Proud Boys, KKK members.
Okay, so
I think they're white nationalists, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know much about them. I'm sorry, I don't study white supremacy that much.
All right. This is where I'm going to get some hate. Okay. I hate the Proud Boys. I think they're a bunch of dickheads. I think that they are a bunch of misogynistic fuckwits. They are not white nationalists. Their leader is African-American, half African-American, half Cuban.
Yeah, but sometimes they're willing to make exceptions if they have the same kind of ideological things.
They're a misogynistic hate. I mean, they were started.
Sure, they're a hate group. Oh, yeah.
Originally, they were started as a troll, and the guy Gavin McInnes who started it, he's distanced himself from it because he said,
"Yeah, I think I remember something like that before."
Yeah, they're a bunch of shitbags. They're absolutely a bunch of shitbags. And Trump should have denounced them.
Yeah. That was the point I was going.
Denounce them. Yep.
Trump had a golden opportunity to say on the first presidential election, I think there's 3 supposed to be, right? He should have said, "Look, I renounce any kind of racism. I denounce white supremacists. I denounce KKK members. I denounce segregation. I denounce having any kind of what do they call it?
Yeah,
there's something else he asked him. But he didn't
get the point. He didn't. Look, he did say when they said, "Are you going to denounce it?" He went, "Sure, yeah, okay." Who in particular do you want me to denounce? Because he was trying to make his point about Antifa.
But he never got there. But he was trying to get. Yeah, he was thinking ahead. He was thinking to Antifa because he wanted to get Biden.
He was just trying to get to. He was just trying to get to.
But so he never actually denounced any white supremacist group, did he?
Well, he said, "Sure, yeah, you can denounce him." Sure, I think it was soft. It was soft as hell. I don't like. He should have denounced the Proud Boys. I have no problems with him denouncing the Proud Boys. I think.
What about the KKK?
Well, I don't think they got mentioned.
Well, it doesn't matter
because he said, okay. So what was said was, of course he should.
Yeah.
What was said was, I don't think anyone doesn't. I don't think anyone would openly support the KKK.
Right, but don't you think it's odd that he has an opportunity to set the record straight that he will denounce these and he doesn't do it? He didn't announce any of them. That was very telling.
Well, see the KKK, Biden didn't denounce them either. Historically, they're Southern Democrats.
Well, I mean, you go back to was it Senator Byrd?
Technically, if you want to go, it's how I don't look. It's he did say who, which group, who are we talking about, and Biden actually said Proud Boys.
Yeah.
Yes, he should have denounced.
Okay, so we agree on that.
I think he lost a point there.
Okay, because he probably would have lost some. I think he knew he would lose some support because I think he recognizes the fact that nationalists and supremacists do support him, and he can't afford to lose anything. He's 7 points down in the polls.
See, I don't buy into the Proud Boys being white.
Well, it's not just the Proud Boys, though. I think you're looking at too myopically. There's a whole bunch of. That's just one of many groups that support him. That
but they were the one who was mentioned specifically.
True.
They were the ones who were mentioned specifically. So after he said, "Yeah, sure," which one do you want me to denounce?
All right. So you were talking
that one out there.
Yeah, I agree with you. So you were saying though, and you agree with me, he was trying to get to the point about the Antifa. We both read that right, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Which, incidentally, Biden didn't denounce Antifa.
Yeah, well, okay, but here's the thing. And by the way, I agree with you on that. I kind of agree with the FBI's assessment, and I'm going to get some flack for this, and I have gotten flack for this, but let me get it out there before people jump on me. I don't think Antifa is a well-organized organization. I don't know why I said religion. I'm so used to doing the other commentary stuff. I don't think they're an organized group, right? I don't think they have any kind of consolidated things. I don't think that they're an organization to declare a hate group, right? Is the ideology hate? Yes. Are they an ideological movement? Yes. Do I think that's enough to constitute a hate group by legal reasons? I don't think so. But either way, that ideology needs to be denounced. And let me make it very clear on this, not being anti-fascist, right? And I think most people recognize being anti-fascist is probably a good thing. It is not against the philosophy of being anti-fascist. It is against the philosophy of how they go about implementing their way of trying to get rid of fascism that I am very much against. That needs to be denounched. Does that make sense to people before people jump on me? Because they say, well, if you're against Antifa, you're pro-fascism.
I get what you're saying, and you thought of copped hate before. I'm going to cop a lot of hate right here.
It's the only reason I keep you around. You get more hate than me.
No. That's good.
You're like my hate.
I am anti-fascist. I'm a historian. I have studied fascism. Mm-hmm. Fascism is absolutely an evil ideology. Antifa is a fascist organization. They are employing the same tactics that were employed in 1930s Germany and 1920s Italy. Grab a history. If you don't believe me, grab a history book. They're burning down cities. They're rioting. They're jumping on causes that have absolutely nothing to do with what they're pushing, or with anti-fascism. They are using and employing fascist tactics. Now, most of the people who go out and protest, I believe that they are genuinely decent people who are anti-fascist and don't realise what the people who actually run this organisation, and it is an organisation, are doing. And the reason I say it's an organisation is, apart from the fact it has a flag, they fly their people. They fly these people to different parts of the country wherever they need to stir up or wherever something's happened. They're not well organised, but there's a core group that is organised.
Well, there might be a core.
There might be a core.
Right, there might be a core, but I think it's very much cell based or something like that. It's not going to be like some kind of centralized thing.
I'd agree. Yeah,
but I really want to. We'll arrange this. I think my contact lens is scratched, so I apologize. I probably have to take it out here soon. It's an older one. I have an eye appointment coming up. I put a new one in on the other eye, but I think you and Stonebutt would have a lovely conversation on this particular topic. He's a big fan of yours. Stonebutt's a huge fan. He loves you to death, and I'm being extremely hyperbolic right now.
Okay, yeah.
But I think that'd be interesting.
Look. At the end of the day, it's if people
Stonebutt is cool. He's a really nice guy.
To have conversations and have different opinions, well then, go and live in your bubble. I don't.
But I would like to see you guys have a conversation on this. I really would. But I kind of tend to agree with you. I think Antifa is a dangerous organization. I mean. Again, not official organization. I should say dangerous mindset. And again, not because they are anti-fascist. It is about how they go about it. And I'm sorry, there's just overwhelming evidence that they're employing these types of tactics. Helios for $10. The KKK are not Democrats. In 1860, they were founded by the Confederates and had members who identified as Democrats back then. But in 1930, the parties flipped. So what was Democrat is then Republican now? Yeah, Republicans and Democrats used to have different ideologies.
Yeah, I'd probably say more in the 60s there was a flip. In the southern states, definitely there was a flip. I won't argue with that. Yeah. I was probably more making the point of, well, who's got to apologise? How far do you go back? In fact, they might have even, when did Biden come in? 50 years ago. So that's pretty close to...
Pretty close. Let me let you rant for a second.
He would have been a part of...
I got to go take this contact out before it's going to kill me. It's really burning my eye. So I'm going to let you talk for a second. Okay, so do your thing real quick.
Yeah, so look, I'm having a look at... Yeah, there's some interesting things in the chat, I guess, that I'll have a quick, comment on. Look, I'm absolutely conservative. And when I say conservative, I'm an economic conservative. Socially, I'm very liberal. However, I'm happy to admit that I have a bias. What I'd like to think that, because I think a lot of the people who are in, I guess, the online community that we're in tend to lean one way. Hopefully I can just offer a balanced opinion. I'm not expecting to change most people's minds, but ideally, if there's something to think about, it's not a bad thing. I mean, I always believe that if you can understand what the other side is thinking, then you can have better conversations.
By the way, it wasn't scratched. It was actually torn in the middle. So good thing I took it out. Yeah,
that's going to hurt. Yeah, that's going to hurt.
Oh, my God. Oh, man, I had corneal impingement one time where... My cornea actually got impinged because of something underneath the content, and I had to go to an ophthalmologist. And I got to tell you, that was probably one of the most excruciating things in my entire life.
Oh yeah,
it very painful.
I've just seen a comment that's kind of given me a bit of a chuckle. Someone saying they've checked out my Twitter feed and I support far right commentators. I follow a variety of people. I follow people on the left, on the right.
Oh yeah, who you follow? I mean, look, I
have an interest in politics.
Yeah, I mean, I think I follow. Do I follow Ben Shapiro or not? Doesn't mean I agree with him. Some people follow things because they just like
I follow Ken
stuff they say.
Doesn't mean I think that the Earth's 6,000 years old.
Yeah.
It's, and look, once again, I like to have.
I go by who's following me.
I like to see a variety of different views. It's why if you're just following all the same people and you're just going to live in the same bubble, good luck. I mean, I've got friends who because I've got political involvement, I've got friends who sit on the complete opposite side of politics to me. Now, when we get together and have a drink or go out for dinner, we rarely talk politics because we know we're not going to agree, but it's when we do, we still have a reasonable conversation. I understand I'm not going to change their mind. They understand they're not going to change my mind. Sometimes I give them something to think about or a different point of view, and vice versa. I've had my mind changed on issues. Like I've got no issue. I'll throw my hand up and say I've had my mind changed on issues.
Well, I'll pick the next issue then.
But you don't change anyone's mind on issues by going, oh, Chris is a this, he's a that, he's a call me names, and I'm really going to have a conversation with you, aren't I?
Yeah, you should hear what I call him when we're like just hanging out together. So Sue says, I'm finding this hard to watch, and I love Stephen Cray. Oh, this is the real Nielsen. Why is this hard to watch? hopefully we're making this pretty simple. We're not getting into much in detail on this stuff. We're just giving our like layperson's opinion because we're kind of running short on time.
Here's the irony. I haven't actually said that I agree with what Trump said. I just said I think that Biden had an opportunity to win. He didn't win, so therefore, on the whole thing, I think Trump wins the night.
And I think that Trump not denouncing the white supremacy stuff or any of that stuff just was a missed opportunity for him.
I think it was a massive missed opportunity. I think that that he didn't denounce the Proud Boys. That should have been simple. He should have said, yes, I denounce their actions, the same as I denounce the actions of. He could have led straight.
What do you think they would have done? What do you think those guys would have done?
Sorry?
What do you think those organizations would have done?
I don't think it would have made any difference.
Oh, okay.
Realistically.
But you think it's not odd that he gave him a slogan that they use now? Stand back, stand by. That's
that was
not a good move.
I don't understand the meaning behind that.
I don't know, but the other side will take that, and they did run with
anything.
Yeah.
But the stand by, I thought was, I didn't like that. I was actually very uncomfortable with that. I was uncomfortable with it the first time I saw it, and the second time because the Proud Boys are a bunch of dickheads.
And they will take messages like that. They will take them as the supreme leader, giving them coded messages.
They'll take that. They'll take that, and I think they have come out. They've taken that in a way that it may not have been intended.
But I think they made shirts. They made a logo. Colorado Biker Prepper says, I've heard from numerous people around the world that the quote debate was a complete embarrassment. Absolutely, it was. This was the worst presidential debate in the history of all debates, and I do think Trump did the absolute worst. I do think he's the worst president in the history of presidents.
Neither of them look presidential.
And that's
you've got to represent. You've got a lot of troubles in the US.
Yeah.
Biden in the Democratic primaries, he got his point across. He stood there. He didn't interrupt when Kamala Harris was, any of them.
Yeah, but he was jabbing back. He was jabbing back at Trump.
He stood there and he answered it properly. If he had have done that, he would have.
I don't know if I fully agree with that. I don't feel like I agree with that. I think people wanted to see Biden can actually jab back a little bit. He was not taking of his crap. I think his statement, "We just shut up," like that. I mean, that's become a slogan for them now. He was making it very clear that Trump would not shut up.
Yeah, it was dumb. It was, and you know what?
I don't know.
Where Biden won a point where Biden should have lost a point, but he won. He won that. He absolutely won.
Let me ask the audience. I'm kind of curious. Do you think Biden made a misstep by? And again, I don't agree. He should have got fully down in the sandbox with Trump. But do you think his clapbacks were warranted? Do you think that was a good move by Biden to show that he could do that and stand up to Trump, or do you think it was a misstep? So one, if you think it was a good idea. Two, if it was a misstep. Kawasa has a super chat. Anyone else seeing the similarity? Or 10,001. Anybody else seeing the similarity between Trump's debating and Kent Hovind swamping the other guy with endless streams of things that need fact checking? Yes. Oh, absolutely, dude. And you know how many times I've been in debates with.
I think Hovind actually behaves better in debates.
Trump was worse than Hovind.
Yeah, they were both so bad. Yeah. Trump was the worst. But that was his tactic going in. He went in with his tactic would have been throw Joe Biden off his game.
He would not let him answer a question, dude.
Because the thing is, and because the narrative they were trying to spin was, Joe's going senile. He's not with it, which is garbage. He's clearly with it.
Yeah, he's got his faculties.
But he's someone that when he riles up, he trips over his words a bit, and that's what Trump was trying to do. Was trying to get him to trip over his words. He was trying to get him to, and it's. And look, I've been in political debates where my opponents have done the same thing to me, and I've tripped over my words.
I fully agree with you. However, I will go on this. I'll say this because I throw this out there. I don't know if Trump even does that consciously. I think he's such a narcissist, and he's done this for so long in his life. This is how he operates. That he just does it naturally to him, subconsciously. I don't think he planned to do that, but he does do it because that is how he, like you said, trips up people, and he knows he can get away with it.
He's a narcissist. There's no two ways. He's a narcissist, and he's not a good person. Like he's
complete human garbage.
But
I did like him on The Apprentice the first season or so, but hey, whatever. I think he made some bad calls firing people, but that was a TV show. All right, so let me change it up a little bit. Let me ask you this. Okay, so he started talking about mail fraud, and I really think this is important because a lot of people, because of the pandemic, are voting from home. And so he's trying to make it sound like, hey, the election's rigged. He said mailmen was selling ballots. That was proved false. It was one mailman. He wasn't selling. Yeah, he said mailmen. What he does as a narcissist, and you'll see this with other narcissists. If you go to my channel, we have many videos on narcissism.
I was going to say I can think of one.
I can too, but I didn't want to mention you, Chris. I'm kidding. Chris is so humble, dude. I'm telling you, dude, he's like the anti-narcissist. He's just very straight. He was straight shooter like I am. Some people don't like that. But when you look at what a narcissist will do, like Trump will do, he'll take something and he'll exaggerate it immensely. Something very small that has some myopic kernel that did happen, and then completely run a fabricated narrative around it. That's exactly what most narcissists do. That's what he did with this story. There was only one mailman. He wasn't selling it. There was no indication of any kind of absentee ballot fraud. There has been no evidence of any kind of tampering. You can't just throw these accusations out there to fearmonger people that, don't use voting ballots when there's been no evidence to support it. That is just dishonest tactics. What do you think?
I'm going to give you a funny story, actually, that ties into that. So here in Australia, we have a similar thing going on where they're talking for some elections. They want to use some mail-in ballots. Now, the mail-in ballots actually flip the other way here. It's probably more in favour of the right-wing party or the Liberal Party as opposed to the left-wing party. So the same arguments that Trump's making, our left-wing politicians are making, which I see a certain irony. It's whatever suits the narrative. Look, it's mail-in voting is definitely going to be beneficial to the Democrats, but I think it's also and look, is it an ideal system? No, I don't think it is. It's probably going to cause some issue unless there's a clear winner overall. But we're in the middle of a pandemic. You can't expect people to stand in a crowd for 3 hours to vote.
But why scare tactics though?
Because it's
politics, dishonest politics.
It's politics. It's politics. I mean, it's dishonest. They're both doing it. Look, the reality is the mail-in ballots are going to favour the Democrats.
I think this election, yes.
Yeah, there is potential for the only way I can see that there's potential for voter fraud is I think it can take away the anonymity. I don't think there's going to be anyone stealing ballots or anything like that. Okay. But it takes away from the anonymity in a family group. And I'll use an example. Let's imagine for a second, you live in a household where everyone is a Trump supporting, MAGA hat wearing sycophant. But your plan is you go along because that's the house you live in and you don't argue about it, but you're planning to vote for Biden. Now, if you go to the ballot, you can just cast your vote for Biden. Whereas if you're casting your vote with all of these people that you live with or your family around, you mightn't have that anonymity that allows you to do that. Now, that can go both ways, but I don't think it's a big enough issue that it would affect the election. I think that the mail-in ballots will be fine. I don't think it's going to make any difference. I still think Biden's going to win.
That was my last question. We'll get into that soon. I'd like to keep you posted on your time here because I know you have a time crunch. But he did say that 30 to 40% of the ballots would be considered fraud, and that is nonsense. Can you imagine if you're the Postmaster General? If you imagine if you're the Attorney General? Can you imagine if you're in politics and 30 to 40% of the ballots were deemed fraud or got lost, as he claimed? That would be investigated. That's so
Trump,
ridiculous.
That's Trump overplaying things. And
Way.
Is there going to be some issues with it?
Yes.
Yeah, but is it going to be anything that's going to affect the election? No.
What is this? And I'll give this point to Biden. He made a very brilliant point. He said what they're talking about are absentee ballots that are for some reason have something wrong with them. But the person can affidavit it and saying that is actually their ballot. That is something you could actually do. So there's supposed to be affidavits with them for that very reason. For that this is my affidavit. But we remember back in Florida with the hanging Chad scenarios, right? Now, brilliant that happened. They couldn't determine what people were voting for. There are some reasons why some things are hard to determine what the actual intent of the voter person is, or they're just not filled out right, or there's something wrong with them. They do exist. That does happen. But 30 to 40%, that's nonsensical. That whole system would be vamped just like that. And yet he just throws these numbers out there with no evidence of any kind to support those kinds of ridiculous things.
He's full of shit. There's no two ways about it. Trump is full of shit.
So if we know that to be the case, and I think that pretty much everybody understands that Trump is the commensurate liar. When people think of a lying narcissist, I mean, other than people in our community here that knows some actual real ones that we deal with, and even then, Trump beats them. I have to at least be honest with myself. Trump is the quintessential narcissist. But people watching these debates will see this with Trump, and they'll still go, "Oh, I'm still going to vote for this guy," even though they know everything he said is completely bullshit. Biden was making better points. Biden had better answers. I mean, do I think Biden is the best presidential candidate? No.
Oh God, no.
But
not even close.
But we'll get into the final point here about who you think is going to win. I think it's Biden because he at least tries to answer the question. Oh, the other thing I want to talk about was the Medi-Cal thing, or the Obamacare, right, and all that kind of stuff. Trump would not answer if he had a coherent policy for some kind of medical program, pre-existing conditions, all those questions that people want answered. He had nothing, and all he kept throwing it back to Biden was, "Well, when you were vice president with Obama, you guys didn't do anything." Well, they did try to just think, does Obamacare have problems? Yes.
Yeah, it's Obamacare. Obamacare got blocked by Republicans in the House. I'm sorry, in the Senate. I think
in the Senate.
Look,
by the way,
I'm
fun fact.
I'm in a country with full medical. We've got universal health care here, so I have a bias towards it. It works. It is good. What you've got in the US is a joke.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you.
But no, he didn't answer the question. And what he did was he got thrown off, and he took opportunity from the moderator, and I know we'll get to the moderator after, but with this one in particular, what the moderator's done is he started with a commentary or a statement where he basically said, "You've done nothing, and you've just done this virtue signaling," and then asked the question, which allowed Trump to make it. It wasn't about the question anymore. It was about, "Oh, okay, hang on, this is a 2-on-1 debate.
Mm-hmm.
This is a 2-on-1." So it's plays perfectly into his narrative because that's the narrative he sells.
Yes.
It's
the whole media is against us. The moderator's against us.
Yeah, he's playing the outsider. He's playing the political establishment.
All right, so you agree though he didn't answer questions about
the White House. It's his game.
But you agree he didn't answer questions anything about any kind of what he was trying to do for
no, he
medical.
Didn't. And
they didn't talk about single payer type things. They didn't talk about anything that anybody really cared about. That whole debate was nothing of substance of any kind. And let's talk about the moderator real quick.
There was bugger all substance in it. No, look, Trump's healthcare policies are a joke.
Yes,
absolutely a joke. Biden's aren't much better, but I say that as coming from somewhere with universal healthcare.
Yeah.
So to me, I look at pretty much any of the policies and just go, "It's not enough. It's not enough." Like this, it's a simple thing to me. There should be universal healthcare.
All right. So real quick, let's talk about the moderator. Okay. So this is my take on this. He did shit job, and let me tell you why. When you're a moderator, I've done moderations before. People know I have a background on YouTube, and I don't mean like professionally, but I've done a lot. I mean, like 100 debates. One thing you have to do is maintain control in those kinds of circumstances. They were talking over each other, and you just can't have that. And you could tell that Trump was trying to use bullying tactics. So I think where they messed up, the biggest thing they messed up on, is they didn't give Chris a mute button. Now, they would have. I'll tell you the pushback. You could tell me. You're going to be like, "Well, if he would have muted Trump, that would have gone into his persecution narrative." I get that. I know you're going to say that, right? You're going to say that?
Actually, I wasn't. I was going to say it wouldn't have made a difference because he's actually commented on that already, and he said Trump was speaking that loudly that Biden's mic would have picked it up anyway.
Yeah, well, no, you cut up both mics. You shut them both down.
I think I would have just let him go.
But he needed something because that was a disgrace. Trump did not at all adhere to his wishes. And do I think anybody else would have done any better? I don't know. Again, I'm not trying to fault Chris. I'm really not. He was in a shitty position. He really was. But the fact remains is that got way out of control.
It did. And look, had it have been a case, and I'll keep coming back to this, and this is where Biden really, really screwed the pooch. If he had have just let Trump do his talk over and just said, "Are you finished? Are you finished? Are we going to do this like adults? Are you finished?" That the moderator wouldn't have needed to have stepped in, but instead Biden got into the scrap. So you've got two grown men scrapping like that. And I don't think it's...
Maybe.
And no one... I've watched a lot of political debates. I've never seen anything like that. I don't think.
Right.
I think he was taken off guard. I don't think he knew what to do with that. I don't think he controlled it very well. I think he cut things off as they were getting to points. Because he wanted to move
noticed
on
that
to
too.
the
They
next.
finally started maybe.
And obviously, there's things they agreed to beforehand.
He went to a new topic,
I didn't like him making comments and then asking a question. I thought it could have just been a, let's discuss healthcare.
Yep.
What is your policy on healthcare? Back and forth.
Yep. I agree with you. But don't you think it would have made more sense if you're going to give somebody 2 minutes, right? And he told Trump, hey, it was your group, your entourage, your whatever it was that had agreed that each candidate would get 2 minutes uninterrupted, and we expect you to abide by that. During those 2 minutes, I am sorry, there's no excuse for not muting the other person's mic. None. Prevent any chance of interruption, and it doesn't matter whether the other mic's going to pick it up or not. It doesn't matter. The candidate at least can give their 2 minutes without interruption. Then on the back and forth, the open, just a different.
I think the better solution, and maybe this is something they can do for the next debate, rather than let the moderator have a mute button. All right. So what the candidates have agreed is Mr. Biden has his 2 minutes. The president's microphone will be muted, and vice versa. Do it that way.
Well, yeah, that's
Simple.
What I'm saying.
It's automatically going to be muted. Not the moderator can sit there and hit the
why not
button,
both? I mean,
I don't think that's appropriate.
Either way, my point is, during those 2 minutes, it should be muted to the other person. It should be uninterrupted as asked for. I have no problem with that. I don't know why that couldn't have been that way. That's how I would have done it as a moderator. This seems to be just the most common sense to me. I mean, I'm not putting out anything out there that I'm sure everybody else has thought the exact same thing listening to that.
I agree with you, Steve.
Yeah.
I agree.
This is not some brilliant commentary on this, guys. This is we're two lay people. I mean, he's a politician, so he knows a lot more about this stuff. But we're just, we're not trying to be like political analysts here. That's why I like these types of shows, because we're not experts, but we tell people what the common person probably looks at this stuff as, All right, so let's kind of wrap it up a little bit. We're getting toward the some kind of wrap up. I think Biden's going to win this election, and I thought Trump was going to win last election. He did. I think Florida was a key state. I think, if I remember correctly, it had 29 electoral votes, give or take. It is a swing state now. Texas is a swing state. Georgia's a swing state. I think that he'll probably, right now, he's probably going to win just above the 270 votes without the swing states. So even if Trump got all the swing states, I still think I think Biden will win by about 9 or so electoral votes. And probably much higher if he does actually get Florida. He probably won't get Texas, even though it's considered a swing state right now.
He won't get Texas.
Yeah, Texas will probably. Yeah, Texas is probably going to obviously go, I think, to Biden, but it is considered to be a swing state at the moment. I don't know why. That has always been generally a red state, although there's a lot of Democratic areas in Texas. And then I think that Georgia may go to Biden. But either way, right now I'm saying that I think Biden is going to win the election. What about you?
I think Biden will win. And the reason I think Biden will win is because what will happen is the vice presidential debate now becomes a lot more important. And I think Kamala Harris will knock it out of the park. And people will see her as a safe set of hands.
Okay.
Because no, I don't think anyone expects Biden. Look, Biden won't do 2 terms. I think there's a lot of people who the fear is that Biden won't do 1 term.
All right.
I think Kamala Harris, is, even though the thing that surprises me is Kamala Harris didn't do that well in the Democratic primaries, but I think that she would have done very well against Trump as the main candidate. I think that there's a couple who would have. I think Biden was probably a poor choice, but that's the choice that the voters made.
Oh yeah, the DNC, that is the most dumbest organization in the world at the last God knows how many years. They make all the wrong choices.
Had that have been Kamala Harris in Biden's place yesterday, that would have been a different story. She would have wiped the floor with Trump.
All right,
absolutely. And I think she'll wipe the floor with Pence, because I think their styles. That's probably what's going to happen. And I don't think. So Biden will win the election, but he'll win it off the back of Kamala Harris.
Okay, let me talk about Kamala for a sec, because I think you make a really good point. Do you think that Biden will get at least some of the popular vote because he has a woman candidate running for vice president? And should something happen to Biden, he's an old dude that will have a first woman president. Do you think that is actually something that comes into play?
No.
No, really? Because I think it does. I think it actually does.
Look, I think look, if people strongly wanted to vote for a female president, then Hillary Clinton would be the president right now.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. But I think that there are going to be some people that might, because of that reason, be influenced by that.
I think Kamala Harris will actually flip. There was a comment saying that normally the VP doesn't influence anything. Normally that is the case. But when you've got a 77-year-old man running, I think the VP does come into it. And I think that she's been pretty strong, especially with, I mean, she was on a video with The Rock the other day. I mean, that reaches people. She's making those connections. She's getting herself out there as well.
And when do you think the vice? I don't actually know. When are the vice president debates?
I'm not too sure, actually. Okay. They'd have to be coming up soon. It'd have to be.
Do you think Biden made a huge mistake? Because I was thinking this, and I wonder if anybody else caught this. Do you think Biden missed an opportunity when they were talking about science and talking about how to respond to the pandemic, which I think Biden did a much better job on? Let's be realistic. He nailed Trump. Trump tried to downplay this. Trump's own words comes back to bite him. He's incompetent.
I have a different view on that.
You're wrong. just wrong. No.
Where I think Trump made a good point and where he shut it down was when he said, well, if we had have gone by your advice, because you got to remember back when Trump shut the borders, he was called xenophobic.
Yeah.
They attacked him for it. In Italy, as a response, they were out there encouraging people to hug Chinese people who had come in, and Italy all of a sudden broke out. It was never a racial thing. There is a virus. That's coming from China.
They tried to make it into a racial thing.
And it was played a certain way. Now, look, had that have been flipped, I think Biden would have done the same, because every government followed the same advice. And probably the Republicans would have had the rhetoric the other way. I thought that Trump getting that point out, I thought that shut down Biden, and I thought he was effective with that point. I mean, Trump's been terrible on COVID.
I'm sorry, but I've been pushed back on that. That is a too quote quay fallacy. Hang on, that's a too quote quay fallacy. He's basically saying, you could have done this. A too quote quay fallacy? What about it? About what is it? Let's say I'm saying that smoking, and I'm trying to argue that smoking is bad, and you say, hey, you're arguing smoking bad, but you're smoking. That's a too quote quay fallacy. My actions don't have to. It's a performance contradiction, right? But it's not. It's not. You can't say, hey, smoking obviously isn't bad because you're smoking. That's a fallacy. So when he's trying to do whataboutism, saying, well, you would have done this and would have been worse with the China, has nothing to do with the fact that he still did a really, really bad job.
I agree he did.
And he did try to downplay it. He admitted that.
In the debate, I think that was enough to get him. I think he was able to throw Biden off his game.
He deflected it dishonestly by using a fallacy.
Yeah,
but my point was this. I was actually going somewhere with that. Where Biden really made a mistake was he should have said, you don't listen to scientists. The climate change too. That was ridiculous. He did non-answers. He never answered it, and he would not say climate change was from anthropogenic gases. He refused to do that. Did you notice that? He said, "Yeah, maybe, probably it does somewhat," but he didn't say climate change was due to man, which Chris Wallace made very explicit. But here's the thing: this is where Biden made a critical mistake. He should have said, "Sir, you have a vice president who thinks the Earth is 6,000 fucking years old, talking about science." Game over. Go home.
That wins you and I, but unfortunately, that probably wins a lot of evangelicals.
I'm just saying,
and there's
if you're going to talk about science, you've got a vice president who thinks the Earth is 6,000 years old. Good freaking game. Point that shit out. That is how inept and incompetent they are in science. Yeah,
I agree. You won't get an argument from me there. It's look, Pence becoming president is scary.
Yeah,
that is it's. Yeah, the attitude on climate change, I don't think he doesn't believe in it, but I think he gave a non-answer because he doesn't want to upset the crazies out there that don't believe it's a thing.
No, I think it's probably both. I don't think he understands the science well enough to even care or know one way or another, and plus it affects his business interest. He doesn't want, I mean, he got out of the Paris Accord, which again, there's probably pros and cons for that.
Yeah, he's not the only leader to get out. We got out of the Paris.
Yeah. Well. So I mean, I'm not really upset about that. But I never was for carbon emission taxes, credits. I think that whole system is completely flawed, and of course, he's going to capitulate to the manufacturer because he wants the manufacturers, in the United States, even though he he himself ships everything out overseas. But when it comes to domestic companies, like he was talking about General Electric and I think it was General Motors or some other companies, that he wants these companies here, but of course they're going to pollute, and he knows this, right? And then he said, talk about the tax credits for them. You can't. Well, you can't have them have tax credits because then they go overseas. No, that's not necessarily the case. He doesn't want those tax credits, closed up. Yes, he did utilize them. Not faulting him for that, by the way. But when you're paying $750 in taxes, when you're worth that kind of money and trying to claim a loss, sorry.
That we can talk about.
Okay, let me throw my 2 cents on that, then I'll throw you the floor.
Yeah.
He absolutely lied.
Quickly, on the climate change thing, though.
Sure, go ahead.
I agree. He's terrible on climate change. I think that's a problem that, I sit on the right side of politics, and that's something that myself and a lot of other people on my side of politics identify that we need to do better with. The problem is we see a lot of extremism on both sides of it. End of the world stuff. There's a sensible middle that I think everyone needs to get to on that. Okay. But we do have, on the right side of politics, we absolutely have a problem with that, and we need to do better on it.
All right. So we had a segue.
$750.
Yeah. So it's taxes. He actually lied on this. What I think happened is this, because he was saying, well, I paid millions in personal taxes. No, he did not. What he paid millions on were taxes for employment type taxes, SUCA, FUCA, that kind of stuff. Those were taxes because of his businesses for mandatory taxations, not personal income tax, because he didn't release those. Those have not been released. I don't think, has paid a dime or $750 in personal income tax. He threw all these other things together and put it under, I pay taxes. No, not the same thing. I'm sorry. That's just wrong. Go ahead.
Okay. So I've got a proprietary limited company. In my proprietary limited company, that company pays a lot of tax. I pay myself my company pays me the absolute minimum, and I pay personally the minimum tax rate. So my actual personal income is low. My tax income, or the business's tax income is higher, because rather than pay 42% tax, I'd rather pay 28% tax.
Right. That's simple. That's nothing
simple.
abnormal.
So if I were to pull out my personal tax returns, I'm paying bugger all tax.
Yeah, but
my business pays the same. Now, proprietary limited companies work the same, or virtually the same in here as they do in the US. It's his companies. It's you would have to be an absolute idiot. And I know there's arguments that he is one, but you would have to be an absolute idiot, and you would have to have the world's worst accountant if you were to pay yourself a huge wage out of your company that you then get taxed on.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm not saying he's not doing anything wrong. I call him out on his. Look, he's taken advantage of the loopholes that he himself created, or the public has created. That's not the issue. Should people take advantage of loopholes? That's not the issue. I don't fault him for that at all.
By the same token, he's also said it's false.
He has said he has paid millions in personal income tax. That is a false statement. Because of those loopholes.
I think it is. I think it is too. Yeah. I think 750 is wrong. I think millions is wrong.
I think you got a refund, probably.
Yeah, it's. I mean, with the income tax thing, I mean, it's a rehashed story from. They threw the same story out 4 years ago before the last first presidential debate, and they tried it then. Look, the only income I can see that he would be getting, personal income, because all his assets are locked up. He had to put them into blind trusts. So the only income he would be getting is his income as president of the United States, which apparently he doesn't actually take. He takes $1.
So I think it is something like that.
So his actual personal income tax is probably, for the last few years, is probably extremely low.
Right.
As a business person, he would not be. Look, it's not like he's got $1 billion company and pays himself $100 million a year in personal.
No, I agree with you on that. That's why I'm saying he lied about that. He would probably
pay himself $30,000 a year.
So we're actually on the same page on that. As somebody noted, TNF says he dodged the very specific, quote, federal income tax question, which Wallace was saying, and lumped everything together. That's exactly what I think happened. Do you agree with that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
I don't think he paid millions. I also don't think he paid 750.
Yeah.
The truth, like everything, probably lies somewhere in the middle.
He's believing people on these things.
Sorry?
Trump is just misleading people on these things. He just, like I said, he takes these words, these very specific questions, and he'll just completely change them rather than giving any detail on them because that's how his mind works. Yeah.
Yep. There's a question, did Trump put them in blind trust? Aren't his kids running the businesses? Yeah, but it's by blind trust, what that means is he has no active say or involvement. So he can appoint the trustee, which is obviously going to be, especially in Trump's case, family members, because those family members would have interest in the businesses themselves. But Trump has no control over the day-to-day. I mean, they could sell everything on him. Not that they would, but it's in a blind trust.
Have you met Eric Hovind?
Well, yeah. This is a little bit different. With a blind trust, there's a fiduciary obligation that whoever the trustee is always has to act in the best interests of the trust. So,
well, in theory, that's the idea behind it, right? You're as if you're an executor or executrix of a will, or if you're charged with blind trust, you have what's called a fiduciary duty to do what's in the best interest, right?
That's right.
Does that always happen?
And no,
clearly not. If that was the case, you wouldn't have all these famous people going to jail for tax evasion. Look at Wesley Snipes and all these people that trusted people that screwed them over, and then they made it worse. But that's a lot of those are.
And that being said, do I think Trump has no say in his businesses? Of course, he has a say in his businesses.
Okay, so let me ask you one last question, so we can get going because I want to keep this under an hour. Do you think that Trump is grooming his kids for their eventual presidential runs? And that includes Ivanka or Junior, Donald Trump Jr. or Eric, or even obviously his other kids.
Very, very surprised if Donald is the last Trump to run for president.
Okay.
Yes, I think that he's positioning his children. I think he would like to see that. He probably won't be around to see it if it happens. I think probably Donald Jr. If anything, I think
I'm going to go with Ivanka.
Look, I would think, but I don't think Ivanka appeals to his base. I don't think she appeals to anybody at this point. She's like Kellyanne Conway, and she's they're all like. The problem is she's sort of tainted with the administration, but I don't think that's necessarily her viewpoint. Whereas Donald Jr., he's kind of out there and doubling down and everything. I would say if any of them, it would probably be Donald Trump Jr. I don't think it's going to happen in 4 years.
No. But do you think one of them would run for vice president first on a ticket, or go straight for a presidency?
It would be straight for presidency.
Okay.
I don't think either of them would. It's and look, they've got the love him or hate him. He's got a supporter base, and it's a lot easier to win the presidency with a supporter base like his when I guess you're in opposition when it's not your party in power, because you're just going on the attack. Look at what these people are doing. Look at these, drain the swamp. Look at this. Look at this. It's harder from in power. So I don't think that if Trump were to win, I don't think that it would be a case of you'll see another Trump on the ticket in 4 years. I think the Republicans will probably go back to a very middle of the road kind of candidate.
Ironically, they did kind of drain the swamp. How many people around him have been indicted? Historical philosopher, I agree with him. He says the two sons have no chance. Ivanka would be the successor to Trump. I happen to agree with that. I think that would choose who he has his mind.
Well, there was a story. I read a story this week that, and how true it is, you never know, but that Trump wanted Ivanka to be the VP pick back in 2016, which that was, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me because I think there is a lot of nepotism with Trump. There's a lot of narcissism.
Yes.
There's no two ways about that. It's, but the reality is, they're not going to do something that they're not going to win at the same time. I don't think. I would think Ivanka would have been the better pick in 2016. I just don't think she appeals to his base.
All right. So here it is. I lied. I said that was going to be the last question. I lied. I thought of another question. So hey, Unirock, if you want to say that Steve lied, I clearly lied in this because I'm going to ask him another question. I am a liar, pants on fire. Sorry, man, but I do have another question.
Unirock was right.
Yeah. So Steve, hashtag Steve lies. But no, I do want to ask another question. So I'm going to retract that was being the last question. One last question. Do you think if Trump is not reelected, which I think at this point we both agree would be the case, do you think there will be any kind of indictments going down for him?
No.
Really?
No.
Okay. I'm going to say otherwise. I think that there will be some kind of investigation. Well, there already been the Mueller investigation, but I think there will be some kind of indictment somewhere along the lines, or at the very least, and I'll have this caveat so you can answer too, or at the very least, civil actions against him.
I don't see what there could be.
Really?
And look, there's a bit of an unsaid thing in politics, and especially at the higher end, they don't go after each other.
Okay.
They just don't do it. It's when it comes to that, they'll slink away. They'll chest beat and throw out all the rhetoric and stuff. They don't want to set that. You think the Democrats want to set that precedent? Hell no.
I don't know. I don't think they'll have a choice.
They have to protect themselves. No. I'll put money on it. Trump won't be indicted.
And by the way, he might be pardoned. Look, that might be a separate thing. I mean, you're right, Pence. I mean, they could have a presidential pardon. There could be something that I agree with you. But my point is,
it would be seen as a political. It would be seen if Trump were to go to jail.
They impeached him. That was political slice.
Prisoner.
And right, I mean, I don't think they're caring about the optics at this point. All right, so let me ask my audience that: if you guys think that he'll either have indictments or at least civil action against him if he's out of office, 1 if yes, 2 if no. And I will say 1.
Actually, there's a good point that's in the chat there too. It's didn't Trump say Trump we're going to lock her up with Hillary? Yeah, she never got locked up, did she?
Do you know how many times Union Rock says I'm going to go to jail and Glenn's going to jail and Cheshire has federal investigations? These are all just narcissistic, bloviating tactics that have zero teeth to them. Absolutely none. But
actually, you know what? He's an interesting, and I'm going to ask you a question.
Oh, okay. I like questions.
And I actually don't know what answer I'm going to get here, and this will be interesting. Okay, who lies more, Trump or Unirock? I've stumped you on this.
Okay, I have to be objective here. The reason I'm going to go with Trump because Trump has on record like 9,000 freaking lies.
Okay.
So objectively quantify. Yeah, if you look at if you go quantifiably, that is the case. Now, let me throw this out there. There's a quantifier to this. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of wisdom here. Okay. Have you ever heard of the what's called the Mcnamara Fallacy? Because I know you don't do a lot of fallacy.
Okay. Me and philosophy don't.
All right. So this is one of those really kind of nuanced things that people might never heard of. I like fallacies. Okay, so it's called the Mcnamara Fallacy. Okay, he basically during the Vietnam War, he was a Secretary of Defense, and he basically looked at the Vietnam War strictly from quantitative measurements. How many people were dying on both sides? He didn't take any other factors into account to how to go about properly, I would say, try to quote win that war, which was up to me pretty much unwinnable. Was mismanaged from the get-go, right? So there is a fallacy to be had when you're looking at just a quantitative number to say, okay, who had more lies than who is the bigger narcissist or who's the biggest liar, because there's other factors involved. So don't. It's also called the quantification fallacy or quantitative fallacy. So you got to be careful with that. Does that make sense?
Yep. Okay. That's okay. It was more a tongue-in-cheek throw out.
No, I love those kind of questions. Those ones that make you think, right? I got to throw out some wisdom there. People have probably never heard of that fallacy before. It's not very well used.
Yeah. Hey, I learn something new every time I come on here.
I like that. That's the whole point of these things, right? All right, so I think we're going to wrap this up because I know I do want to get down to an hour. I'll check. Yeah. I know I got a lot of messages. I promise I'll check my messages after this. But
probably a lot of that bastard, that right wing asshole.
Oh, they hate you, dude. But how many? Just out of curiosity, again, 1 if yes, 2 is no. How many people have heard of the how did he pronounce his name? I know it's called the quantitative fallacies, but I don't remember how to pronounce his name. I think it's the Mcnamara. I wasn't around during the time. I wasn't down in Vietnam. Although this was around the early 70s, I think this was. Even though Vietnam ended in 68 or something? 69? Technically? I don't remember. I was right before I was born. I was born in 70. But anyways, I was wondering if anybody's ever heard of that fallacy. I love the obscure fallacies. All right. Guys, please leave comments. Send as much hate mail you want to Chris. He loves it. He tells me all the time that he's just thrilled to death. I'm so glad I have Chris around. I will
put this out there. If anyone wants to have a reasonable conversation, and if they think I've got anything wrong, I'm happy to have the conversation. I mean, I'm not that stuck on things. I know I'm not right on everything. I know that a lot of, I have biases. I know that a lot of things are opinion. I'm always open to a conversation. What I actually like, and the reason I like doing this show is because I know Steve comes from a different point of view, and it's good to have these conversations. It's even if we don't agree, at least if we understand how the other side thinks, I think that's a win. I think that's a win if we can. It helps us sort of formulate things together, work on, I guess, work on ways to. I don't want to say come together because I think that sounds a bit mushy, but come together on different issues.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I did get a message. I haven't read it yet from Stone Butt. I will read it after the stream. Maybe he says he'll come on and talk to you. I'll check my messages after the fact. But anyways, Chris,
conversation. If it's just going to be,
no, he's. I'll make sure that he's cool. He's a longtime friend of the channel. He is perfectly capable of having a really civil, nice dialogue if he wants to. Okay. So, anyways, but still, people leave comments. Let us know what you guys think. Chris is going to be unavailable, I think, for probably next week or whatever. But
there's a chance of next week, but I'm just not sure. It's just so everyone knows what sort of happened is after months of lockdown and trying to run my business from home. Now I've got all these appointments I've got to go to, and it's absolutely killing me. But I do try and do this where I can. It's the middle of the day.
We all know you're busy reporting back to Unirock all the stuff you find about.
I know. I just have a live feed with Unirock. He's listening now, so
he would understand any of these topics.
Probably not.
No. Yeah,
I have to explain it to him.
I'll leave you guys leave you the last word there, Chris. Anything else you got coming up or anything on your channel? Promote it. Go people sign up to his channel.
Friday night six pack on a Friday night for me. Friday morning for those of you in the States, which is just a very relaxed. There's 6 of us. We get together, have a couple of drinks, and try and solve all the problems of the world. We usually just kind of devolve into drunken shit talk, but it's a less serious, bit of fun. Apart from that, I guess the last word is just remember to keep an open mind on things. Don't believe everything the media puts out on either side, and have conversations with people who disagree with you.
I'm going to give them your channel right there because for some reason I when I've been doing these, I've been doing new feeds, and so it hasn't been putting some of the links that I usually have in. So your link isn't in the video description yet. It will be, but
okay.
Go sign up on his channel. Go subscribe.
Hit the sub button. Even if it's just a thumb. No, when I'm on to thumbs down me, whatever. Go for it.
Hang on, Chris. I'm going to do this before we go off air. Chris is channel. All right, there. Now it's in the YouTube video. And with that, guys, excellent. I'm going to mute ourselves and take us out. Good night.